Hi guys. So today we are going to talk about one of the news stories that came out of Nova Scotia recently. So what had happened was somebody applied for their closed work permit and the extension of their daughter in Canada, but IRCC refused the application saying that the employer never paid the compliance fees. However, the employer did pay the compliance fees, and and after the refusal, they sent the evidence of this and asked for a reconsideration, and the IRCC reopened the case and approved the application. But the reason I'm sharing this is because it's very common with IRCC to make mistakes and then ask the clients to reapply, especially for LMIA exempt work permits, and it can have a lot of consequences for the applicants and their families, as it happened in this case. However, in this case, the media got involved and they reconsidered the case, and it all turned out well in the end for the applicant and her daughter from Peru. But I will also take this opportunity to discuss some of the very common reasons why the LMIA exempt work permits are refused in Canada. In some cases, the employers actually do not pay the compliance fees, and they because they believe they're LMIA exempt, either because they're hiring an open work permit holder or for one reason or another. In some cases, they are LMIA exempt, but those are very uh, narrow cases. But generally speaking, employers are required to pay $230 compliance fees. The other reason why LMIA exempt work permits get refused is that not choosing the right LMIA exemption code. In this case, I believe it was either T13 or C18. T13 is for the provincial nominees who have the PNP approval and a work permit support letter from the province. C18 is for those who have the LMIA exemption under the Atlantic Immigration Program. So, not choosing the right LMIA exemption code is another reason for the refusal. The third one, and very rare but surprising, but it does happen, is not putting the end date too far into the future. For example, there was one case where I saw somebody got an offer of employment through the employer portal, but their offer was only valid for 6 months. So what happened is when IRCC picked up the application after 6 months, they refused the application saying the job offer is no longer valid. You asked for 6 months, and 6 months has elapsed while the application was in process. Therefore, we are refusing the application. And fourth reason, and a very common one, is that the applicants cannot establish that they can perform the duties of the job offer that they're being given. For example, in some cases, a license is needed. For example, security guards, truck drivers, teachers, they all need licenses to work in Canada. And when you apply for the work permit, it is your responsibility as an applicant to provide all the evidence to the officer that establishes that you can perform the duties of your job offer in Canada. So not having appropriate license from the licensing body in Canada or the province is another reason for the refusal. So this, while this story is tragic, it's very common for the LMI exempt work permits to be refused. Make sure you do not end up with a refusal and avoid these common mistakes. Thank you.